Welcome to Leaguepedia. I've done this like 5 times now. Really tired of it. Anyway, today I want to talk to you guys about stagnation. Now, I know everybody is thinking stagnation. Hmm. Wow, what do you have to say, sir? Because that's what I was thinking. That's me. And when I think about stagnation, I think about how NA is the most stagnant at the moment. Now, when you look at EU, or when you look at the Korean teams, Chinese teams, a lot of them have very innovative and very creative ways to win games. If you look at OMG, they played um, Nidalee Vigar bot, and Aatrox, I think top, and Cass and Yorick. Okay, yeah, Cass and Yorick. And it was very innovative. And they used their inherent sustain from each one of those champions, and they pushed down towers like none other. They kept Cass nice and fed, and when push came to shove, Cass was able to put down so much DPS that the other team couldn't do anything because of all the sustain, all the extra Yorick's R. There we go. Yorick's R, and the fact that Nidalee can heal everybody, and they won. They won. That's amazing to me that they were able to pick a Yorick, Nidalee, Cass, Vigar, and Aatrox and win using almost a cheesy, very cheesy way to win. Now, when I think about NA, when I think about their stagnation, a lot of it is caused because of, well, everybody, honestly. I was reading a Reddit thing. What is it called? A thread. I was reading a Reddit thread. And in the Reddit thread, the man was talking about how he finally made it to Challenger. He was finally there. He was really happy. He was excited. You know, he was ecstatic. He was ecstatic. Anyway, so he was ecstatic. He was excited to be in Challenger. But this streamer, X, as he calls him, the streamer ends up telling him, hey, stop being a tryhard, stop being a tryhard, stop being a tryhard, over and over as they play games because they ended up together. And it turns out that a lot of the streamers, watchers, I guess, not really friends, but watchers, start telling him stuff and, start treating him bad. And that was confusing to me. And honestly, it should be confusing to a lot of people because in the highest tier, I don't understand why someone who actually wants to be good is considered a tryhard. And it doesn't make sense because I was once told that in Challenger Division, it goes through metas like they're nothing. You know, that one day you play Tristana with Blade of the Ruined King because it's good. Okay? And then the next day, people find out that Shaco with 20 AP going straight AD can counter that Tristana in some magical way. It can counter it. Just imagine it can counter it. But I imagine that that's what it was, so Shaco AP would be in flavor for a few weeks until somebody else realized, okay, well, that 20 EP full AD Shaco can obviously be countered by Tryndamere Jungle. Obviously. Tryndamere Jungle's OP, bro. But from what I've heard, what I've understand since I'm only Gold 5, sorry guys, I'm working. Since I'm only Gold 5, from what I understand and what I've read, it isn't like that. And that really confuses me as to why people would rather troll than actually try their best. And I think there's a few solutions to that. Stuff like if we get replays on League, it would definitely help because the pros would be able to watch people's replays in Challenger and say, okay, well, this is the way he plays, this is the way I would like him to play. I think he would be good for our team, and they could recruit a lot easier. But that's not the point here. The point is that it's very stagnant because we don't have any incentives. There's no point because everyone thinks they're never going to be pro. That's the way we've said it. Now, don't get me wrong. I enjoy the pros we have now, but if they get replaced by people who are better, that should happen. It should happen a lot, or at least more than it does, because that's the way this game is played, and that's the way it should be played. It should be played with better players replacing not as well players, or maybe somebody who is not as good being on a team that fits them perfectly, making the whole team better. Now, another one is, oh yeah, I remember now. The other one is the thought process behind each player. And this is going into the fact that they don't innovate. The thought process behind each player, a lot of times in the lower tiers, even up to the mid tiers, maybe even some high tiers, a lot of them don't think about why. They think, okay, I need to do this. But they don't sit down and think why. And that goes to the countering. That goes to the whole, why is this meta this meta? Now, a simple one would be the assassin meta that we're in right now. Look at Ari, Fizz, Kassadin. We have all these champs, but we don't actually think about how to counter them. And it was very obvious in Worlds when the NA teams just got squashed. But when you watch some of the other teams got some very interesting picks, like the Swain pick. Now, people may say, oh, Swain didn't do that good, blah, blah, blah. But if you watch, Swain actually did a very decent amount of damage and survived a very, very decent amount of damage. If you watch specifically when Faker jumps out of that Baron and insta-Gibbs the Thresh, I don't remember who was they're playing Thresh. I'm sorry, guys, if it insults you. You guys did very good. Keep it up. But anyway, the point of the matter was that he gets to give Thresh, and they almost killed Malphite, and then Swain comes in, and he tanks so much damage. Like, he stayed there and tanked so much damage, and that was a very good play. That was a very good pick. Problem was that he wasn't able to beat Faker in, mechanics or decision making or whatever it was. He wasn't able to even be even with him. If he was able to be perfectly even with him, Swain could have been a very, very difficult thing to deal with. He could have been a monster to deal with. But that's the thing. See, when we look at NA player base, we don't think, okay, well, let's pick Swain because he has a lot of life and he'll be really tanky and he'll have a ton of spell vamp. Or not spell vamp, but he has assault. He has all that options, and then he can live through Ari's burst. Once Ari's bursted, what's she gonna do? She has to wait for her cooldowns. Once Ari's done her burst, if nobody's dead, then honestly the other team could probably just come in and kill everything. Depending on their team, of course. But you get what I'm saying is that if they had Swain and Swain was tanky enough, and Ari's like, oh hey, I'm gonna try and kill you, and Swain's like, ka. No, it's not gonna happen. Then Swain's gonna live, jungler's gonna come, rape Ari. Suddenly that game's flipped and turned. I think the biggest problem is that a lot of players in NA don't think about the pros and cons of each decision that they make. And not just the pros and cons of decisions like going for Baron instead of taking an inhibitor, which is dumb, or maybe going for, Dragon instead of Baron. Not those decisions, but essentially the decisions on their build, their champ, the champ's kit, and why it works together perfectly with the team. Now, I understand it's really hard to do in solo queue, but the fact that teams in NA weren't necessarily prepared, Cloth5 mentioned it, how the teams in NA weren't actually prepared for the Korean teams. They had smaller champion pools. They weren't essentially aware of their own weaknesses. They weren't aware of the other team's weakness, and that's just poor planning. It's poor decision making, and it's a lot of things where they just didn't think of the pros and cons of each one. So if you look at Dyrus, or not Dyrus, the mid for, I forget, mid for someone. Look at Cloth 5. I'll post a link. But it mentions that they banned out 3 of his mids, meaning he could only use someone else in Twisted Fate, and Twisted Fate gets crapped on by Cassidy. Now, they could have done something crazy like, I don't know, put the 80 carry and the support mid, and then put TF on bot. Why not? I mean, that's a lot of crazy thinking, but what are the pros and cons of it? So let's say TF is bot, or even TF is top and whoever was top is bottom if it's more beneficial. Well, TF suddenly gets more farm. Whether or not Cassidy is going to switch lanes or not, he's getting more farm, meaning he's going to be ahead, meaning that if he gets ahead and he gets that first stun off, well, then he can poke better, he can kill better, he can do things that Cassidy can't because he's hit 6 first. Alright? But let's look at 80 carry mid. I don't know who it was, but if an 80 carries mid and let's say Cassidy doesn't leave, well, all of a sudden he has to deal with 2 people. He can't silence the support, and he can't silence the 80 carry, because if he silences one, the other one's going to do something. But I mean, in that occasion, you would want someone like Leona, someone like Tarek, someone who could essentially make them pay for coming in. And that's a very good counter to the assassin meta. You know, that's a very good counter for assassins being in mid, because they have to insta-give you. There's no point otherwise. And if you go an 80 carry with cleanse and you go mid and there's Zed, what's Zed gonna do? Zed can only get close to you and then try to hurt you, but if you cleanse it every time and then your Leona just stops him, you win the trade. Alright, that's this one of Leaguepedia, and I will see you guys later.